This recording is a recording created by Kristin Lortie, and it's made as a public comment for the Osceola Township September 8th meeting. The meeting occurred last night. I was unable to attend as I am remotely located, and I am going to be talking a little bit more about remote access to the meeting. But to start, I want to give a little bit of context to my comment. I am an Osceola Township taxpayer. I'm a citizen advocate for participatory government. I am the administrator for UperCare's Facebook group. And I like to add a little context here about why it matters, why public comment matters. I will be making my public comment. This is my introduction, and I have a public comment that I will be reading that I had hoped was going to be delivered at the meeting last night. So for last night's meeting, there was no remote access provided, and there has not been since May 2021. Myself and other citizens have provided feedback to the township that we do prefer the remote access and we would like to see it. We wanted to see it continue. But as of the May 2021 meeting, there has been none provided. Last night was particularly frustrating because I really wanted to attend, even if it was by telephone. I provided a Zoom link in order to attend, so there was minimal effort required in order to be included at the meeting, and yet I was not able to attend. Another attendee tried to call me on cell phone, but the connection was not strong enough. Last month, the connection wasn't strong enough to support a good internet connection. So it's really frustrating that citizens are doing what we can to try to make the meetings accessible, and the township is currently not working with us on that avenue. I have contacted the township. I have tried to discuss and ask and inquire for this. Since the last meeting, I reached out to 3 different board members, and I was not able to find any resolution, even as to why the township isn't willing to help citizens attend the meeting remotely. So the township has refused to provide remote access, has refused the request for remote access. And those requests have included assistance with internet access. So that would be both Wi-Fi. And then yesterday, when the township said there was some issue with Wi-Fi, I asked if we could get a corded connection so that we could connect to a Zoom link and make the meeting more accessible remotely in order to be able to attend. I received no response to that request. I have been refused public participation on a conversation with Mark last month. He in particular said that even if citizens exercise their explicitly stated right in the Open Meetings Act to broadcast or stream the meeting, that I was forbidden from publicly participating. And so while I was on the Zoom call for the water board meeting, I was prohibited in advance of the meeting from making any public comment. So I just like to point this out because this is not participation at all. This is not participation. I've offered to provide Zoom access. So I asked the township, we originally asked the township to provide Zoom access, similar to what they had done for the last year when a contractor was providing access to their Zoom. They were providing both the Zoom platform and some technological help on that. And we asked the township if they could purchase their own Zoom account and continue to provide Zoom access. That has never happened. And I've also offered, as of yesterday, I said, can we just use our UperCare's account? We have a Zoom account, and could you just connect to the link? So if the township had simply opened up a laptop and connected to the Zoom account, I would have been able to attend the meeting. But because they were not willing to do that, I received no response to that request. Because of the unwillingness to do that, I was not able to attend last night's meeting. And that's frustrating. I would like to participate in my local government, and I don't understand why, in an age where we have lots of technology available, why citizens are being prohibited and prevented. And it feels to me, I'm going to use a strong word here, but it certainly feels like censorship. I do not feel included in the process. And the township can argue points that they are meeting a minimum threshold of the Open Meetings Act itself. And I have some counterpoints to their meeting of the act, but I definitely can say that they're not meeting the intention of the act, which is to expand citizens' access to our government. The act was written decades ago, long before internet access, and the advances that we have made in accessibility are things that each local jurisdiction should be considering, and which the Michigan Township Association has. The Michigan Township Association explicitly endorses remote participation in order to provide public access, input, and transparency. And I will include a statement from them in their latest correspondence in their June 2021 guidance. So I continue to petition for remote access to safe and convenient access to township meetings. I like to add that word safe because in the midst of a pandemic, it's possible that other citizens, including myself, are concerned about going into indoor spaces during the pandemic, and that providing safe and convenient access is a reasonable request for citizens to have of our government. Including citizens' voices matters. I like to say this out loud because if anyone wonders about why this matters to me, I want to know what's going on with the local government, and I want to encourage other citizens to get involved as well. That if they see someone who is getting involved and who is trying to make it easy for citizens to participate in their government and is trying to share the information that they're learning, perhaps other citizens will get motivated to get involved. I think we have a better community when we have more voices that are included, and when we stop the excluding of voices or making things harder. Right now, the township is requiring that to participate in the meetings, you have to be there in person. And in order to speak at the meetings, participate through the public comment, you have to be in there in person. And anything that is submitted in writing, not anything, at least my comment that was submitted in writing was not included as a part of the public record. So yesterday I submitted a written public comment after a conversation with Supervisor Mark Halkola last month, where he said that he would be willing to read a public comment if it was submitted to him in advance of the meeting and copied to the secretary, which I did yesterday. I also had a copy hand delivered to him so that there wasn't even printing that was required. And the feedback I received last night is that he refused to read the public comment out loud. He also said that it would not be included with the meeting minutes or recorded with the meeting minutes. It would simply be considered correspondence to the township. And after you'll see the effort that I put into my public comment, after the effort I took to provide my feedback to the township, it is offensive to hear that it is simply going to be filed as correspondence when I had the supervisor had agreed to read public comment in advance, and that there's no reason why it shouldn't be considered a part of the meeting record. So it's offensive to be excluded once again from the participation that was requested, right? I made a reasonable request and it was denied on both counts. My comment was not read publicly and it's not being included in the meeting minute records. Below you see our Osceola Township board members. We currently have 5 members of the board. That's Supervisor Mark Halkola, Clerk Traci Sleeman-Houle, Christa Gardner, Treasurer, Trustee Aaron Janke, and Trustee Don Wareham. Okay, so that's a little intro. Now I want to just quote a few relevant publications here. First one is from the Michigan Attorney General Handbook. I love this because it talks about the importance of the Michigan Freedom of Information Act and the Open Meetings Act and their intention to open our government to us, not make it exclusive. So what it says is, dear citizen, the ideal of a democratic government is too often thwarted by bureaucratic secrecy and unresponsive officials. Citizens frequently find it difficult to discover what decisions are being made and what facts lie behind those decisions. The Michigan Freedom of Information Act of 1976, so that's when I say decades, the act was in 1976, establishes procedures to ensure every citizen's right of access to government documents. The act establishes the right to inspect and receive copies of records of state and local government bodies. And as you'll see in my public comment, there are outstanding information requests from May that the township is currently not responding to, but we have an act that explicitly provides our right of access to those government documents. The Open Meetings Act protects our right as citizens to know what's going on in government by opening to full public view the processes by which elected and non-elected officials make decisions on your behalf or our behalf. This guide to the Freedom of Information Act and the Open Meetings Act is designed to make it easier for citizens to keep track of what their government is doing. And then I've pulled in a relevant portion of the Michigan Township Association June guidance to townships. This is expressly about a citizen's right to remote participation. So electronic public access for the public, not for the board members, for the public itself is what this is pertaining to. It says there is no limit in the Open Meetings Act on providing electronic public access. The Open Meetings Act does not limit the ability of the public to participate electronically during a public comment period or on the record during a public hearing if the public body chooses to provide electronic meeting access to the public. Now there's an if there, and we're on the, sadly, we're on the other side of that if, where our public body is choosing not to. But it certainly says that there is nothing prohibiting the township from providing that access. Then it goes on to give the Township Association endorsement. Michigan Township Association believes that providing electronic meeting access to the public, including participating in public comment or on the record in a public hearing, is one way to provide public access, input, and transparency. Note that no law, including the OMA, currently requires a township public body to provide electronic meeting access to the public. So it says they don't have to, but they certainly endorse it. They believe that it helps to provide public access, input, and transparency. So I just want to make sure that we parse that out, that our township is saying, well, we don't have to, and so we're not going to, but the Township Association says, we suggest it. We think that it is one way to provide that access, input, and transparency. So fortunately, in the age of technology, I'm able to create this recording to provide that input on my own behalf, but I am saddened, disappointed, and frustrated that I have to do this independently rather than the township being willing to provide a means for citizens to participate remotely. Okay, so I'm now going to get into the body of my comment. I'm going to make sure that I am recording here. So just doing a quick check on this. Okay, so it looks like we are recording. And my first public comment is to the water board. So the water board meeting happens before the main meeting, and the township provides 2 opportunities for public comment. I do commend them on this. They provide it at both the beginning and the end of the meeting. And I stated in advance that if my comment exceeds the 3 minutes, if they wouldn't mind reading it at the end. Now, this did not occur last night. It was denied, very unfortunate, but I would like to share this public comment for the benefit of the board. This will be sent to the board members and to the public. Anyone who's a stakeholder in Osceola Township may be interested in knowing what another stakeholder has to say about the township and observations they have and feedback that they have for the board. So I start out with my request for Mark to read it at the board meeting, and then I go into the board members and addressing the board members directly. Osceola Township Water Board members, I would like to share the following comments with the Water Board as a public comment. Topic number one is Elm Avenue Water Service Line Replacement Costs. I share Trustee Janke's concerns stated at the August meeting that as of that meeting, the township did not have the total cost available for the recent water project for water service line replacements. It is unsettling that costs were not available at the meeting for the recently completed project or mostly completed project, especially given that the water line replacement has been discussed as the primary reason for a possible Dollar Bay water bill increase. I am interested in knowing the amount of this project and hope it is stated at the meeting. The past few meetings, there has not been sufficient information about exactly how much this project is costing. And for access to these meetings, they're found on the Uper Cares YouTube channel to be able to see those meetings. The bidding process is unclear as to how the two contractors were selected. So there was two contractors that were involved in the project. It's not clear how they were selected. The second item, water service line replacements and the funding sources. And I'll start by saying that I also forwarded an email that was sent to me that shows that Governor Whitmer is allocating additional funding for this purpose, expressly the replacement of lead water service lines. And so that's another possibility as far as the funding source. As I have listened to the board's cost discussion, I am wondering if there are other funding sources for the lead pipe water line replacements than solely the local water bill customers. A comment was made previously that a grant deadline was missed. There's also possible lead pipe replacement funding in the pending federal infrastructure package. I would like to hear that the township has considered other funding sources before implementing an across-the-board water rate increase. Item B, if revenue from water billings is needed, has the township considered reducing the threshold for base monthly water usage to 6,000 or 7,000 gallons per 2-month cycle? That would trigger additional excess use fees for the township to help pay for this big project. It would make sense to reward low water users while requiring higher water users to contribute more to the township. This change may encourage users to decrease their overall water usage, while higher users would contribute more to the water department to help pay for these additional projects. So I'd like to know if the township has considered something like that, because I think that there could be more ways than one than just an across the board rate increase, which has been discussed as up to $10 per month per water user. Item number 3, township not notifying residents of construction project. This is regards to the recent Elm project. For the recent water line replacement project on Elm Avenue affecting 7 residences, comments were made on social media that residents were not notified by the township prior to the project. One resident stated they received a door knock by the contractor 1 day prior to the construction. I was surprised to learn that the township did not mail a notice at least 30 days in advance of the construction and hold a meeting for residents to ask questions about the project. Social media comments also stated that no information was provided to residents about impacts or expectations for yard restoration. So residents' yards were disturbed when they pulled for the water line, when they did the construction project to replace the water lines, and they were not restored. And I have not yet seen the recordings from last night's meeting to find out what the status was on that. But my question is even if the township expected the residents to pay for yard restoration, shouldn't residents have been advised of this prior to the construction? I'm looking forward to an update on this item and would suggest that the township notify residents by mail at least 30 days prior to future construction projects that impact their property. This includes advising residents of any expectations on their part. So if the township is requiring something of the resident in regard to the project, shouldn't they let them know that in advance so that the resident is not left with, we've seen, there was pictures posted on social media of people's yards torn up and just left that way. Item number 4, remote meeting access. As I have shared previously, I continue to petition for remote meeting access for citizens to participate remotely. As of the time of this writing, the township has refused to provide guest Wi-Fi access to make it easier for citizens to participate in the meeting remotely. This is a small request for use of a taxpayer-funded service that costs the township nothing. It is discouraging that the township is not willing to accommodate a minor request to accommodate citizen meeting access. And I will point out that if the Wi-Fi is not working, there's a brief email that was sent to me just yesterday that said something about the Wi-Fi not working. I then corresponded with, well, then can we use a line access? You know, that would be either or a line that would connect to a laptop so that that laptop could connect to, there's multiple ways to do this. But what we're seeing so far is that there's simply no effort and every refusal on the part of the township to make remote participation possible. So even as something so small as a phone call from a landline last night, I waited 90 minutes. I had the Zoom open, hoping that there would be some connection. I had my cell phone ready. Had a Zoom open, and I waited for 90 minutes with that open line, hoping that the township would make such a small gesture as even just to call from their landline, and that was refused. So we can't say that too small that we're simply getting no traction here on efforts by the township to even meet minimal accommodation requests for public access. I am requesting of the board that the township reconsider working together with citizens for remote access options so that everyone interested in attending can participate in the meeting in person or remotely. And I will say that Mark made a special point during the conversation that I had with him last month to stress that even if citizens were able to broadcast and make the connection on their own without any township resources, that it was forbidden from speaking at all. And I found that I was taken aback. I will say I was definitely taken aback to have the township supervisor expressly forbid a public attendee from making a comment unless they were in the room. So, but that's where we're at right now. My request is consistent with the Michigan Township Association June 2021 Township Guidance, which supports remote public participation to provide public access, input, and transparency. I can't say that enough to the public business. I am requesting a phone call on this item from Supervisor Mark Halkola regarding what the board is willing to accommodate for remote access. So I hope I've missed something and that I'm wrong and that there's some misunderstanding. But so far, every engagement has been rebuffed or ignored. So it's disturbing, but I'd like to be wrong about that. And I am requesting a follow-up phone call from Mark. And I had thanked Mark for reading, but unfortunately he was not willing to read it. And I included the Michigan Township Association comment, which I have already read before a few minutes ago, but I also included it here in my formal public comment to the township. Okay, so that was it for what I wanted to present to the water board. I also had a follow-up comment, a public comment number 2. This is to the township board during the monthly board meeting. And so I'd like to share this as well on the same recording. Once again, it was addressed at the top to Supervisor Halkola with the anticipation that he was going to be reading it aloud last night, but I will read it on my behalf. Osceola Township board members, I have a few topics that I would like to share with comments with board members. Remote meeting access for citizen attendance. Safe and convenient remote meeting participation with citizen input is recommended by the Township Association. I would like the option to participate in the meetings remotely. UPR Cares is offering to provide the Zoom platform and the technical expertise similar to what UP Engineering was doing through May of 2021. The township would simply connect to the meeting with a laptop. So I would be happy to provide that link and request the township to simply do the laptop as they have done many times before. For a year, over a year, we had the remote access. Simply connect through a laptop and assist in that process. Cindy and I requested, so we are offering the technology, both the technology, the expertise, and the platform in order to meet our own interest in participation, in remote participation. And so I just want to make sure that we take every obstacle that we can out of the township's way to say that citizens are doing as much as they can to provide the needed items, and requesting a small amount from the township. Could the township please accommodate that? Cindy and I requested guest Wi-Fi last month and were refused. It's a small, no-cost request for access to a taxpayer-funded service. So taxpayers, just so you know, we pay $105 a month for the internet service. And wouldn't it be nice if we could utilize that service in this instance where it is very advantageous and relevant for citizens to use in order to attend the monthly meetings? I am requesting the township to work together with us so that all interested parties may participate in the meeting without needing to attend in person. Okay, next item is the township. So I've said a lot about the meeting access. Next item I'd like to cover is the township information request and meeting minutes. The township has not provided any acknowledgement or response to the 2 information requests submitted to the township in May, or any email responses. So there's just no acknowledgement. We didn't get I haven't gotten the information. There's been no follow-up whatsoever on it. I wanted to point out that not responding to the request is a violation of the Freedom of Information Act. The Attorney General states that most information requests should be provided by the public body within 5 business days. I would add to that because one of the requests asked for the citizens' right to inspect the meeting minutes as they are completed, that is also a violation of the Open Meetings Act, because the citizens have the right to inspect the meeting minutes within 8 business days of the meeting for the draft minutes, and then within 5 business days for the completed minutes. And since I made that request to be provided those minutes since May, that is now in violation of the Open Meetings Act. So I don't know what the reason or history. These were small requests. One of the requests was for backup on one particular invoice that occurred previously. And the second one was for a subscription to the meeting minute service, but both of them have been completely ignored by the township. So I don't understand why they're not willing to abide by the laws that we just read up at the top for freedom of information and for the Open Meetings Act. Posting the 2020 and 21 meeting minutes on the township website would be helpful to citizens wanting easy access to information. The minutes have not been updated since April of 2020. Can the reason for the lack of updating be addressed by the township? So if the reason is that we don't have the technical expertise, or we don't have the right website, or what is the reason why we're not willing to provide up-to-date information to citizens that are interested without having to contact the township and potentially not get a response from the township? Why can't we get the meeting minutes updated on the website so that anybody interested is free to access those meeting minutes? So I'm not sure what the hurdle is there, but I have made this request before and it continues to go unanswered as to why and whether that reason could be addressed. The closest I think Traci said was that time was involved. To me, the amount of time to update a few files onto the internet seems small compared to the benefit of citizens to know that they have easy access to public information. And I would also include that similar that the Dollar Bay School Board, they post their draft minutes, and that way those draft minutes are available for inspection prior to the next meeting. And that makes it helpful for anybody who would like to have quicker access to the information. So that would be a helpful thing to do for the township, to post the draft meeting minutes for any citizens who are following and want the information more quickly than the way that they currently do now in order to get information. The only way to get, there's only 2 ways to get meeting minutes now. One of them is to get onto the website just prior. Yesterday, the board packet was posted the day of the meeting, and that's available for a short time period, and it's appreciated. So I want to commend the township for making the board packet available on the website so that people have it. And I want to say that that is the only way right now to get the meeting minutes, to get, you would get the draft meeting minutes that are about to be approved. without contacting the township directly. So those are the only two ways I know of to access the meeting minutes. Okay, the third item that I want to cover is the August election update. I reviewed the August 2021 election information. And as some of you who know me might know, that I'm very interested in the election and in these poorly advertised, low turnout summer elections. I would like to see the elections all occur in November, or for the townships and the county itself and the clerk to be out really promoting these elections to get greater participation, because we end up with very low participation at a very high dollar amount for summer elections, often for millage renewals. So they want our tax money, they want to renew their millage, but nobody seems to mind that only 203 voters show up. And on the next slide, I'll have our total number of voters for the township, but it was only 13.8%. I'll flip down here so we can see our total. 1,468 Osceola Township voters at the time of the August election, and only 203 voters participated. I would have liked to see the township send a summer newsletter that included election information with the property taxes, as I suggested a few months ago. We haven't seen newsletters for quite some time now. And it's unfortunate. I think there was one last year, and then they didn't do one in winter. They didn't do one in summer. No reason given for why we're not doing the newsletters, but I think for an election, it would have been very relevant to have included the ballot language and encouragement to taxpayers to participate in the election. I personally would be happy to assist in editing and or helping to create content for future newsletters to update Osceola Township taxpayers and encourage the township to find additional ways to notify residents and encourage participation in elections, especially for low turnout summer elections. So I'm happy to assist in order to share information with our township. While Traci, the clerk, made a comment at the last meeting that absentee ballots were not returned, I would be interested in finding out more about what happened. Why did voters decide not to participate? How could we address that? If we're getting significant ballots that are sent out that are wasteful, how could we address it? Well, let's find out what happened with those voters, including not returning their requested ballots. And then the last one is that I compiled some election data from the township website. The township clerk, Houghton County clerk provides data and statistics regarding participation. And I pulled out some regarding Osceola Township. I would love to see the township do this and provide more information. There was just a brief update in the last meeting, but this is actually giving us some data of who participated and where, so we can tell that of precinct 1, we had the highest turnout with 16.67% of the eligible voters. That is only 67 voters, but they're there. We had 100 voters in precinct 2. We had 4 voters in precinct 4, and we had an average of 13.8% turnout of the eligible voter population. Now, of those eligible voters, how did they vote? And I looked at that and found that 69% of those that voted yes, and 31% of those that voted no. And if we remember, it was a countywide question, and it was about renewing the millage for the Canal View Houghton County Medical Facility. So that was a millage renewal election. And lastly, I have what could have increased voter turnout. I said that there was no summer tax mailing. There were no announcements in the monthly meetings, to encourage people. So if anybody was watching or attended the meeting or watched one of the recordings, they might have been inspired. It'd be nice to see that more, documenting the activity, reporting on the activity that's happening to promote the elections, more election publicity for summer elections, encouraging November questions, not August. This was a countywide that triggered the election, but it's tens of thousands of dollars in tax money that's spent for a very low voter turnout election. I am requesting a follow-up phone call from Mark, the township supervisor, regarding remote meeting access options. I mentioned that also in the prior meeting for citizen participation. And I am requesting to receive the May 2021 information request that I submitted to the township. So thank you for participating with me. If you've made it to the end of this recording, I appreciate that. I hope that it's helpful to illuminate at least one citizen's perspective on a few items in Osceola Township and what matters to somebody. And I do hope that the township will reconsider their current approach to remote access and consider making it easier for taxpayers and citizens to safely and conveniently attend the township meetings. So I hope that there's some progress made prior to the next meeting. And you may hear from you may easily hear from me again. But thank you for making it through this recording. And that's all for now. And you can contact me anytime if anyone is interested. We have the Facebook group of UPR Cares and Local Affairs, and then an email address for UPR Cares Local Citizens Group that is interested in these types of matters. That email address is uprcares@gmail.com. YOOPERCARES@gmail.com. Okay, thanks very much for your time. And I look forward to hearing more back from the township on the remote access and the meeting and the information requests. Thanks. And the other items that I brought up. So my door's very open. I'll be watching the recordings to see how that goes. And my door is open for any of the feedback that I've provided that the township would like to comment on from any member of the township, not just Mark, but any member of the township that would like to reach out to me, please do so. Thanks very much.